This month marks 1 year since I got the Leica Q3, and it changed my photography from day one. What they say is true. Leica can improve your photography, but it's not without serious disadvantages. In January 2024, I decided to treat myself to a Leica Q3. After researching it since it came out in 2023, I would research for new videos almost every day in an attempt to decide if I wanted to go with an M body or with the Q. I looked at prices for past models, used models, and I eventually decided on going for the Q3 despite its pretty hefty price tag. The Q3 has an impressive build quality, and that can't simply be matched. You have to feel it in your hands to understand how it feels. And I'm never afraid of taking it out or damaging it when it's around my neck. And after using this camera for a while, most of the other camera bodies feel plasticky, almost like toys. I know that if the Q3 accidentally bumps into something, the damage will be just cosmetic. In fact, you probably can tell that it's kind of pretty banged up. And yeah, I have some things over here. I have quite a bit of wear around the edges on both sides, and to be honest, I think it looks great. The downside of this is that I think some sacrifices were made to maintain the aesthetics. My main concern is the grip. This little groove on the camera, it's supposed to house your thumb while you're shooting. I don't think it's deep enough to provide enough grip, especially if you hold it vertically in portrait orientation. The camera really does feel front heavy, and your thumb will get tired after a while. So you definitely need to hold it with both hands, and I think it's necessary to have a thumb grip accessory. That would cost you around $50, and if you want to get the Leica branded one, it's around $230 to $150. Overall, shooting in portrait orientation is doable, but definitely not ideal. Probably the star of the show in this camera is the lens. This lens is, you already know if you're watching this video, is a 28mm Summilux 1.7, and some people say it's closer to 24, 26mm focal length. I've seen some videos explaining why is that. I honestly I'm not bothered by it. I barely notice it, and I do love how versatile it is. I know a lot of people are excited about having the new 43mm Summicron in the Q3 43, but I still think that the 28mm version of this camera is the better option. As a relatively small and lightweight fixed lens camera, the Q3 is best suited to carry around everywhere. It really should be your daily companion compared to any other camera. This is a camera that you can bring everywhere, even into places where cameras are usually not allowed, like stadiums or concerts and so on. And a 28mm focal length gives you the best chances to capture photos at a moment's notice by allowing you to get in the frame as many things as possible. And you really should try to shoot with this camera even if the subject you're trying to capture is far. And I believe that the 28mm lens is the most useful even if your subject is far from you. I'll explain more in a little bit and give you some examples, but remember that this camera has a 60-megapixel sensor. Another great thing about this lens is that it gives you an impressive manual focus experience. The focus ring is obviously based on the M lenses, and it feels close enough. It's a little more stiff, a little slower, but I believe that manual focus is the best way to use this lens. You'll probably be disappointed if you come from a modern Sony when it comes to autofocus. The combination of the lens in the Q and the 60-megapixel sensor is the real reason this camera is above any other fixed lens camera and previous Q models. I see people complain about the focal length in the original Q3, but I firmly believe that it is because they see the Q in the wrong way. You really have to ask yourself if you really need 60 megapixels in every photo. I've taken some of my best photos with this camera, and it comes down to how it allows me to take advantage of cropping in. Take this image that I took while on a boat in the canals of Amsterdam, and this is a 4K crop that is currently being sold as an 8x12 print at a local art gallery. I respect that some people insist on not cropping or not editing their photos, but to me, this is just another option that I have at my disposal with the Q3. No one needs 60 megapixels, but it sure is great to have them. On the other hand, I suspect that the file size of these pictures is the reason that this camera feels so slow. The EVF is probably the only reason I would consider selling this camera. Image quality is great, the contrast is great, but there are two things that bother me quite a lot. The first thing is that the camera takes too long to activate the EVF when you put it to your eye. It feels really slow, and maybe you won't notice it, but for my style and my preferences, it feels off. And the second problem is how the image on the screen and the EVF gets so slow and blurry when using high ISO settings. You can see here how the image drags and blurs, making it difficult to understand what you're really capturing. It almost tricks you into thinking that you're using a slow shutter speed. Finally, do I still want an M camera after using the Q for a year? Yes, the short answer is yes, and I actually plan on getting one this year. The reality is that I don't need it. I don't need another camera. I don't feel like the reality is that I don't think I need it, and I don't feel like the Q holds me back in any way when it comes to my artistic expression. I don't think I'd objectively get better photos with an M camera, and could go with the Q as my only camera for many, many years.